On the menu today, it's Morimoto's pork gyoza with an old-fashioned tomato sauce and a bacon cream reduction. And there's gonna be a little help from my friend too, who is me from 6 years ago. I'm just not gonna give up without a fight. Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to my home. Welcome to yours, just for a little bit, until the end of this little thing I'm doing here. And we're continuing where we left off last time. And Morimoto's The New Art of Japanese Cooking. I did a little spiel about him last time in case you missed it. We're making pot stickers. That's what the street name is. It's pork gyoza with rustic tomato sauce and that bacon cream reduction. But that all right there is not going to get you very far out in the street. I don't know. But they're Japanese dumplings, and I used to be very obsessed with them years ago. Haven't really had them since, so not really sure why I'm telling you that. You may notice a slight similarity between my sauced pork and cabbage filled gyoza and Italian meat ravioli. Of course, I enjoy pasta as much as the next person, but I'm always compelled to translate what I taste into my own version of Japanese food. Right, so this is Japanese fusion from this cookbook here. So if you see shades of like Italian influence in this recipe, that would be why. And I chose this recipe because of that right there, the presentation. It looks beautiful. I want to make that. One of my earlier videos over here is actually making gyozas. As I mentioned, I was really into them at the time, so I thought it'd be a good idea to make them. And they were okay. But I don't need to tell you this. I was a bit of a tool back then. More of one than I am now. Shockingly enough, and to my own credit, I made gyoza wrappers from scratch in that video. And they turned out pretty much, I think, and I didn't even know what I was doing. What do I gotta do with this? I don't know what to do right now. He's only calling for a package of them, like store-bought. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to follow along to that old video just for the gyoza wrappers, just to see if I can like decipher what I'm saying in that video and if it translates to the modern age. And then I'm gonna follow along to Morimoto here for the rest of it. Sound good? Great. Now I know I need to start with the dumpling wrappers, which funnily enough is not in this book. I don't have that cookbook, but I know it's flour and water. Where's the flour and the water? Good question. Bowl me. Yep, and the sieve too. I need that. All right, so what this guy does here is add 3 cups of all-purpose flour, 360 grams worth. He sifts it first. So I guess it's 3 cups of sifted flour, or do you take 3 cups of flour and you sift it? We'll never know. I'm gonna add in some salt. Maybe around a teaspoon-ish. Now I'm gonna slowly stream in around 200 milliliters of water. It's just under a cup. Just mix a little in, mix a little more in. I'm gonna get a rough mix going in this bowl here. So it's very flaky at first. It's onto a surface. I'm gonna knead this until it's smooth. How long? I'm gonna assume just like maybe similar to a pasta dough where it takes maybe like 8 minutes or so. So yeah, just doing what I do with the pasta dough where it's like I knead it and then I fold it, then I rotate it, and then I don't want to do this all day, so I try to go really fast. That's looking real nice. So into my baggie, keep that off to the side. Room temperature for like an hour, he says. Who is I? So I'm gonna take a coffee break, which is a perfect time to thank today's sponsored trade, your one-stop shop for all things coffee. You need beans for hot or for cold? I gotta tell you, sometimes I can't make up my mind. So you can count on them for dark roast like me, but also light roast, decaf, espresso, and roasted to order and shipped within 48 hours. I'm a legitimate subscriber too. Once I had my first cup, there was no looking back for me. And they've also introduced a new subscription to help keep you cool. It's a rotating assortment of iced and cold brew coffees, perfect for this summer, this cruel, cruel summer. See, the thing about Trade is that it matches customers with the best coffees from local roasters across the country. And it's a convenient way to experience small batch specialty coffees like so and support small businesses. The double fisting with the hot and the cold is... Oh, and it's all shipped to your door too, in that bright red bag wrapped just for you. You get a free bag of coffee if you give Trade a try. You gotta visit drinktrade.com/antichef and subscribe. They guarantee that you're gonna love your bag of coffee. If you don't like it, then they're gonna replace it. So visit drinktrade.com/antichef. Get that free bag of coffee. Thank you, trade, and coffee break over. Let's move on to the rustic tomato sauce. Thank you. 28-ounce can of whole plum tomatoes. Drain the juice, and then I gotta seed and chop the tomatoes. You can do this easily by pulsing them in the food processor. Yeah, I'm gonna do that because I can't stand seeding tomatoes. Beam in the whiz kit, please. Just swap that out. Put it over there. Thank you. Tomatoes go in and pulse them up. And I mean, there's still tomato seeds. I, for some reason, thought the food processor was gonna pulse them all up. So I gotta finely chop up an onion here. So I'm gonna finally do it as finely as I can. 2 cloves of garlic crushed under a knife and peeled. So in a saucepan, using my saucier, medium-high heat, around a tablespoon of olive oil. Get that going until it's very hot. Drop in the garlic. And then here's something I don't use very often. It's dried chili peppers. Look how often I use them. And there's one. All I'm doing right now is just browning the garlic and the pepper. That's why I got it on very hot. Then I'm gonna remove it once it's browned. All I'm doing is flavoring the oil, I think. Add in half a cup of finely chopped onion. Medium-high heat, right? So you gotta stir this often. 3 minutes, the onions have softened. I'm gonna add in all of the tomatoes, including those juices. Well, it is all basically juice at this point anyway. I'm gonna bring that up to a boil, I'm gonna turn it down to a simmer for 20 minutes, and any of the excess liquid in there needs to evaporate. Since I did puree that, and there's not much pulp in there, if any, it needs to evaporate. I hope everyone's okay, of course. Moving on to our pork and cabbage filling. Napa cabbage. I need 3 cups of this finely shredded. I could pass this just through the food processor. I'm sure that'd be really quick, or use a mandolin to do so. But I figure something like, you know, bouncy like this, it'd be fun to run a knife through it. Tougher bits at the bottom of the cabbage, I'm just gonna leave that out of this. This is gonna be like the colorful parts and then just some of the middle part. Capiche? We're about to do a whole bunch of things with this cabbage, so it's gonna wilt down even more so. Can I have a medium bowl or a bigger one? Thank you. I'm gonna need around 3 cups worth. Okay. The rest of the cabbage, it's not making the cut today. I'll save it for something else. Chives. So I've cut the chives so that they're all the same height, and I wrap them in this paper towel. This is a trick I saw on the interwebs. I don't think I'm doing that right. So I dampened a paper towel and squeezed out the excess water, and then I folded it a few times lengthwise. Now what I'm gonna do is get the chives in there. Roll them up nice and good. You can slide the paper down. Oh, I see. You slide it down, slice a bit more. Keeps everything in place. Wow. Look at it, it just keeps it all together. It is eating up my time right now, but I am learning a cool hack. I'm sure if you've done this a few times, it's much faster than how I'm doing it. So a 1/4 cup of the chives in with the cabbage. 1 tablespoon of salt, toss that all together, and then I let that stand for 10 minutes. The salt's gonna go to work there. He wasn't lying. This is super wilted, and look, squeezing, all that liquid comes out. And you know what I have to do is exactly that. Can I have a clean bowl? I'm gonna have to, And yeah, what I'm gonna do, squeezing as much liquid as possible, as much as I can, and then I can go into a clean bowl. Look at all the water that came out of that. That's fantastic. So just reach to your right, unwrap your little present. That's 12 ounces, 340 grams of ground pork, and this is on the fattier side of things. He says fatty ground pork, so. After you have washed your hands, black pepper, half a teaspoon, freshly cracked. And mix this gently but thoroughly. And I gotta be careful not to over season this. Don't even think about it because you've already added quite a bit of salt. So he wants me to do a bit of a taste test. And you're like, well, it's raw pork. How are you gonna do that? Well, so in a non-stick skillet, I'm gonna add a little bite until there's no more pink on the pork. Don't change a thing. So here's the gyoza wrapper dough. First I'm gonna do is split it in half because I think this is gonna make an obscene amount. According to the video I made, I rolled this all out into like a log shape. And then what I did is I snipped off some little pieces here. And then I'm gonna roll the first one out into preferably a circular kind of shape. Needs to be uber thin. And then a cookie cutter, 3.5 inches in diameter should do it. Here's my first gyoza wrapper. Should we go a bit thinner next time? I think so. Okay, they do retract once you've done your thing there. They do retract, which is frickin' annoying. Like, why is that shrinking? Frickin' idiot. Cover your dough with a towel there. The dough retracts really quickly. I don't know why. It's been resting on the counter for a long time. Stay put. As soon as I cut it, it shrinks. Like, that's pitiful, man. Because I did have it on the counter for like hours. It's just something with the gluten, right? It's not like relaxing. So I found the best way to get around that is to roll them out initially. Awesome. To roll them out initially so that they're kind of odd shapes like this, but they're gonna be thin enough. And now that the dough has just kind of chilled out for a bit, I can cut the shape and it stays in place. Victory. So maybe Morimoto was onto something here with just buying the pre-made packaged ones because they wouldn't stop shrinking. Also, I'm following along to a recipe from a guy who couldn't cook to save his life, so that's probably not helping. Baking sheet, we use that parchment paper, and I need some cornstarch. Not gonna grab that because I hate the texture of it. So use the ice cream scoop and cornstarch on there. Just a teaspoon of filling into each gyoza. You don't want to go overboard with this stuff. So just fill the center of each wrapper with around a teaspoon of the filling. Now I should call out a couple things here. First of all, it looks like I didn't even make a dent in my filling, which is kind of true. And that was 8 gyozas. I don't know, gyoza or gyozas. Is there already plural or not? Now my point is that there's many leftovers here. If you want to make 48 dumplings, you can have at it. I'm just gonna make this much for the show, and if it's a big hit, I'm gonna make more. If not, then I'll save the filling for something else. It's great. So very similar to like ravioli or something like that. I just dip my finger in water and first, go around the edge of the wrapper. So bring one edge over the filling to meet the other edge to make a half moon. Press the edge of the dough firmly. Fold in 6 or 7 pleats. So just pinch the edges together and form your little pleats. Yeah. Okay, and then I get that onto the cornstarch parchment paper. Continue. And then we pleat and pleat and pleat and pleat. Up and over, half moon. Press the edges together and we pleat and we pleat. 6 or 7 times along this edge. And now we have gyoza that is pleated, anti-chef style. So on the baking tray here, just make sure that you're plumping up the bottom of these gyozas so that the pleats are up. It says to cover it up and place these in the fridge until we're ready for them. So we're moving on up to the bacon cream reduction. Are you as curious as I am? He says to use 1 slice of thick cut applewood smoked bacon. And these aren't necessarily thick cut, so I'm just gonna use 2. And when you combine them, what do you get? Just dice it up. Saucepan, bacon in. cooking that until the fat renders out of the bacon. It's gonna take around 5. Roughly 2 tablespoons of shallot chopped. And then if you have some veal stock on hand, you need around a cup worth for my bacon cream reduction. I didn't make any, I bought it, and this is veal demi-glace. Look at that, Jello. But it will work. And once you just kind of get that all in there, that should be around a cup worth. You gotta pay a pretty price for the veal stock, but we are sparing no expense with our bacon cream reduction. It's gonna be... So the shallots go in now, and I gotta cook them until they're softened around 2 minutes. So in goes the gelatinous veal stock. It will liquefy. See, it's already happening. Now we gotta crank the heat, bring that up to a boil until the stock is reduced down to 3/4 cup. Brilliant thing about this guy's recipes is he's very precise about everything. So he's like, 5 minutes to 2 minutes to now 5 minutes for this to boil. He mentions having a sprig of thyme handy, but he never tells you when to add it in. So I'm just gonna add it in now. Reduced, and now in goes 1/2 cup of heavy cream. And I gotta continue to boil this until this whole thing has been reduced down to 1 cup worth. I mean, he's been on time with every single one of his estimates so far, so 5 minutes. Strain this into another saucepan and then just season with pepper to taste. The bacon cream reduction tastes a bit like fancy gravy. I would drink this entire thing right now, if I could. Heavy cream is a nemesis of mine. I need my pills to be able to enjoy that one. That's okay. Keep a lid on things. Off to the side. Let's go back to our rustic tomato sauce here because it has been way longer than 20 minutes simmering. I just had this off to the side doing its own thing. I was watching it. And it's thickened up to what I think is comparable to what he has in the photo. So I'm gonna season and crack in some pepper. Here's the interesting part. If you're like me and you just have some duck fat hanging around in the fridge, I do because I made a duck cassoulet in the winter. But if you haven't made a duck cassoulet, then you may have to just buy some or cook a duck. Either way, so there's 2 to 3 tablespoons of this stuff. I think just 2 tablespoons. Maybe have this heat on low and stir that in. So most tomato sauces I've ever come across have you enriching it with like butter, of course. But duck fat, that's a new one. That's good too. Everything is great. Leave this warm off to the side. All right. It's time for the main event. I gotta cook these gyozas. Gyoza. I don't know. I still don't know. I think those look pretty nice. He's using 6 in his photo. I'm feeling a bit frisky here. I'm gonna use 7. 8 would be too much. 7's good, right? All right, so what he's telling me to do here is, first of all, you need he's very specific about the non-stick skillet you're using. He says a 12 by 14 incher. This is 12 by, this is it. This will work. And you need a nice secure lid because with gyoza, you're gonna steam them as well. They're called pot stickers because they're gonna stick to the base of this pot, AKA non-stick skillet. Non-stick stickers. Non-stick. Get the heat on high and adding in 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. That was way more than 2 tablespoons. Till it's hot and not sizzling. Keep this in mind here. Gyoza are traditionally served attached to each other. But if that doesn't happen, they still will be delicious. No, we're gonna keep them attached. Let's get pleat side up in here. Working quickly so that they're touching each other. Woo. So next up, I gotta add in 1 cup of water. Cover tightly. Cooking this for a total of 5 minutes. And in the first 5 minutes, if the water evaporates, I have to add more. It's gonna be a total of 7 minutes of cooking. What? So I gotta cook for 5 minutes, adding more water if it evaporates before the 5 minutes is up. Then I cook until the water is evaporated and the gyoza are brown on the bottoms, about 7 minutes in total. So after 5 minutes, let's take a look. Still got plenty of water in there, so I don't have to add any more. I feel like he was very clear with this recipe the whole way through until this very end, because I don't know with this final 2 minutes if I need to keep the lid on or off. I'm assuming off. I'm assuming off because I need the water to evaporate. I'm supposed to invert this pan onto a plate. The problem is that there's oil in there, so the oil is not going to evaporate with the water. And the water has nearly evaporated, but the oil is not going to evaporate, so I don't know how I'm going to invert this on the plate. I think you just have to drain the oil. I didn't want to do this here, but I have no other options. Also, there's a whole lot of oil in there, so it's gonna get crazy here. Get the oil out of there first. Invert. Okay, not too shabby. Keep these in an oven that was at 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and then I turned it off. I'm just gonna keep them warm while I just figure out my life. I'm gonna bring over the bacon cream reduction. I'm just gonna get it into this thing out of the saucepan. I need to make it foamy. Around 3 tablespoons of this rustic tomato sauce here. The foam in that bacon cream reduction is not going to last once I add it to the plate. You're going to have to move fast. So let me get the chives on top first. It's not holding its froth. You foam it up and you add it to the plate, and as soon as you do, the foam vanishes. So I'm just gonna order up now, and then I will add the bacon cream reduction. Well, let's eat. Let's eat. Am I supposed to use chopsticks? This whole thing is insane. Back to the fork and knife. Cleanup crew. Gyozas are the best. Gyozas are the best. How do you plural gyoza?
The plural form of gyoza is either gyozas or gyoza.
So I think you can say gyozas. Or as she says, gyozas. I love the combination of that cabbage with the meat as the filling. It's top notch. I love the 2 different textures of the softness on top of the gyoza, and then underneath it's got that crunch to it. He says there may be similarities between this and Italian, with the Italian meat ravioli, and then there's a tomato sauce too. I was thinking maybe it was more French, with the richness of the bacon cream reduction and also the richness of the duck fat in there. I've had a lot of those flavors in the French cooking, so that's food for thought. Anyway, that dish was rockin'. That was great. What I did with the gyoza wrappers, thank you very much, Jamie. Pat on the back. Would I have got a better result if I just had the prepackaged ones? I don't know. Maybe. Anyway, this was Jamie and Morimoto. Bon appetit. Au revoir. Sayonara. I'm just not gonna give up without a fight. Ready?
Mmm, tasty. The flavors are there. The refinement is not.
This is one of the best tasting things I've ever made. Don't have that one. That's just, ignore that one. There's 2 that you should ignore, or 3. Have these ones.
Okay. Pretty damn tasty.